Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio. I finished the piecing of the super simple square quilt this weekend, and I have the borders on it and it's ready to load on the machine. But first I want to play around with some design ideas, so I want to show you what I'm thinking of for this top. I will put a link in the description below to the pattern. This pattern comes from MO Star Quilt Co, and you can watch their demonstration on YouTube and shop at their store, do whatever you want. And it's a really cute design. It is simple. It's kind of a basic design, but basic designs to me I think are some of the prettiest ones. It really showcases your fabrics really well, and it's made with charm squares. So if you got some extra charm squares laying around, this would be a good pattern for that. So I'm going to adjust the camera and show you some of the ideas that I have for quilting this top. Okay, I am going to work on this area right here, and then maybe I'll work on these two squares, this one here and this one, and kind of combine them together. I think I'm going to do something different in the squares than I do from here, and quite frankly I think with these frame pieces here I am just going to do a crosshatch, and so I'd have to find like the center of each side of the squares, and right now I'm just going to eyeball it just for this demonstration, and then I would just go on and do my crosshatch, and I'm going to do it in one direction first all the way around, and then I would stitch in the ditch here and then do the rest of the crosshatch. And I have to ditch again and go this direction. So on this design you would have to ditch a bit, but you can still do it. Whoops, I would have to ditch this way, but you can still do it all in one pass, and that is if you want to do it like one square at a time. Otherwise, what you can do is just do it row by row, and you would go across your row kind of in the same way. You're going to have to find the center of your 5-inch sides, and then I would just at the end I would ditch again and then come back. So that's one design that you can do, and I'll just go ahead and do this side. And then I would come up and do this also, so that we've got, go ahead and do this side while I'm at it. Okay, and then down here, this is just to give you the effect of what the design would look like. So here we have cross hatching and all of this. Now I can do something different in here. Depending on how fancy you want to get. If I wanted to do a feather in here, I would do a fairly simple feather. I would not do anything elaborate like a feather wreath. This would make a really tiny feather wreath, and you could do that and it would look really nice, but it also would be more dense than here, and I think that would kind of throw off the balance of the quilting. And so what I would do would be like a spin feather. And I like spin feathers because they are fairly quick, and that little spiral in the middle takes up a lot of space so that you don't have as much work to do on your feathers, if that makes any sense. But we could do a spin feather like that. And then another thing that we could do, if you want to do, you could cross hatch this entire quilt top. There's nothing wrong with that. This would also be another good one for a pantograph or an edge to edge. We can do, it's kind of like a feather, but it has kind of the wavy ends. It kind of reminds me of a four-leaf clover. And then you have a design like that. I'm going to switch pens again. All of my pens are drying out on me. Let's do, I'm going to, well, okay, I'm going to make some kind of point to point. Kind of make a diamond shape in there. Move something like that. Greek key is always good in squares. And so we'll just start around. I'm trying to make this one without quite so many rounds in it. It's kind of balance this design with what's going on here. A couple more ideas for the sashing type areas. You could do something like anything you would do in a border or any other kind of sashing. One thing you could do would be these little flowers that just kind of alternate around. You could do leaves, and you just ignore the piecing. You just go ahead and do your design in there. Another thing you could do would be if you have a circle template or an arc ruler or something that you could use, you could go ahead and do something like this. Your kind of like a scallop, and you could do it in one direction, or you could come back and do it on both, and you can kind of overlap them. It might be hard to overlap both, so like on the small one, if you want to just leave it there, like the dart and egg that I did on the last quilt, only this time I'm going to cross over in this section. So you could do something like that, and then you could do the same like in this direction. You would kind of have to decide between this design and this one, as far as, because they're not going to go in the same direction is what it boils down to, because these are all going to go horizontal. And then you could do this in here, but that's just kind of messy. You would have to decide if you wanted to go straight across that way, or if you're wanting it to come down like this. So that's one of those designs that may be a little more harder to execute and look good, but it is something that you could probably work out and figure out a way to do that and to get it to look the way you want it to look. You could also kind of alternate and do do the little flower in these, and then do your cross hatching, and then do your flower and cross hatch another flower, and then come back and then just catch your other direction going that way. And that way you can just kind of, you know, cross hatch here, and then just on this side do the same thing, just come around and do it the same way you did the top one. And then come back and get the other side. So you would have that going. Okay, there are lots of designs that you could choose for in your square, and I'll go through as many as I can. If you want to do kind of an asymmetrical design, you can always do like one square in a corner and then just kind of outline it like this. And then on your next area, you could alternate where that open corner is, and that'll give a lot of motion to your quilt, because each block next to each other won't be exactly the same. They'll kind of be turned. Another thing you could do, find the corners or the centers of your sides and then do kind of a diamond shape. We're going to do just a kind of a C curve, and we're going to come in and repeat it. And then out here we're going to go in the opposite direction and circle all the way around. And this is going to give you a cathedral windows type look. You could also do the square in a square. Like that. Okay, we're going to do a diamond shape. And that kind of gives you a hexagon type shape in here, if you can get that to look right. I've got it all wonky right now, but if you can figure out where like your points need to be here so that you've got everything kind of symmetrical, and this would be all even and it would look really nice. Another thing you could do is we're going to do kind of the Z shape and then come back and do it on both sides. Kind of give you a pinwheel. And I've got a couple variations on that. You could also do kind of the C curve there and do it all on both sides. And then this one we're going to do with an S curve. Okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to come around like that. It's a very gentle S curve, and I need to kind of get this down a little further though. And a little C curve, and then it's kind of an hourglass look. This is one I'd have to do kind of slowly so that I don't get it messed up, and I'm not even sure you can see that. Let's try that in a black pen. Okay, that's better. There we go. And then you can also do some little veins in there if you want to make it look more like a flower. So that's kind of 3 variations on the same idea. Since these are only 5-inch squares, I would probably keep it fairly simple and not make it too elaborate. But of course you can do whatever you want. And we'll do petals. And then you can come back in and do veins if you want. You can do a filler, like a swirl. Whoops, kind of lost my way there. And this is a stacked swirl here, and you just basically stop whenever you hit another line of stitching or your border, and then backtrack. This looks really nice in larger areas, I think, and that would give you some dense quilting. Let's do some hearts, and they're both going to start the same way with a center. I've got 2 different variations here, and this one they're going to go to the center of the sides. And on this one, we're going to go towards the corners. It's just a little bit different look, and it all depends on what you like. You do something like that. Now, if you want to do more straight line work, we could start with dividing the square into triangles like this, and then let's go ahead and do some straight lines, and then we want to kind of get these to meet, so we're going to do this, and then come in this direction and do the same thing. And then you have something that looks like that. Kind of a snowflake effect almost. And then you could do the cabbage rose, just make it really large. And you do that just by adding an extra petals, and then just like an extra row of petals on top of it. And you can stop wherever you want. And that fills up the space really quickly and pretty nicely too. So those are some ideas that you can do in some small-ish squares, and these little 5-inch squares. And then, you know, once you've got these sewn in, they're 4.5-inch squares now because they started out as 5 inches. So those are some of my ideas for this super simple squares quilt, and I will hopefully get up to quilting this later in the week, and when I do, I will take some video of that and show you how I am doing that. So there are some design ideas that you could use for any quilt that has squares, especially if they're small. Some sashing ideas, and especially if you try the super simple squares quilt, just remember a pantograph would work just fine on this quilt. It doesn't have to be a custom job. You could make this into something very elaborate if you want, but it doesn't need to be, because it is you know, just made out of squares and rectangles, and it is a simple pattern. It's not made to be elaborate. You can play on that idea of it being a simple pieced quilt, and still make it special. I hope this gave you some ideas of things that you can use in small squares in your quilts, and if you like this video, I hope you will give it a like and share it with your friends, your quilting friends, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my newest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.